The Black Art Network warmly welcomes Dr. Segun Shabaka. Among the list of notable accomplishments and positions, Dr. Shabaka is the chair and founding executive board member of the International African Arts Festival, now in its 54th year. The chair of the National Association of Kawaida Organizations, acronym NACO. Earned a doctorate from Temple University, where his dissertation focused on the 1824 to 1825 African-American migration to Haiti, totaling approximately 13,000 people. Was mentioned by Dr. Maulana Karenga, who developed the Kawaida philosophy, the foundation of Ngozo Saba and Kwanzaa principles. Owner of Pyramid Productions, which leverages Dr. Shabaka's expertise in Pan-Africanism to take travelers on highly educational and engaging trips to Africa, the Caribbean, and South American regions in the African diaspora. Are there any other significant accomplishments and positions you hold that I omitted?
Well, I think we could start with those. I was also the former executive director of the East Cultural and Educational Center, from which the International African Arts Festival emerged. And a little slight adjustment, we just finished our 54th year, so now we're going into our 55th. And we've already started the planning for that. And I was also the editor of Black News, which was the communication organ of the East.
So, Dr. Shabaka, is it true that you are a native son of Brooklyn, New York?
Yes, in that I've been here since I was about 3. Moved from Manhattan, Harlem, East Harlem, some people might say.
I read that you studied Swahili in high school. As a young man, how important was education to you and the role it would play in your journey?
Of utmost importance. My parents, who had very little education, formal education, but were brilliant in terms of taking care of the 8 of us. I have came up with 8 siblings in Brooklyn, in Brownsville. My father only had 3rd grade formal education, but he's one of the most brilliant men I've ever met. And my mother had a 6th grade education. And they raised us to be excellent in what we did. We couldn't bring home failing grades. And if you had a 80, you should get a 90. And if you had a 90, you should get 100. And so there were standards. And of course, early on, I began to understand Black people, Black history in high school. And I began to understand the importance of education more, self-knowledge more. And of course, I've internalized Malcolm's teaching that education is the passport to the future. And that's something that we have to instill in our children, our youth. I think one of the crises we face is the education crisis. And it's not just academic, but it's cultural and historical. And so our students, our children, need to get academic excellence, which we did at Sasa, and rigor, and coupled with, infused with cultural and historical knowledge. So education is the key to the future.
What is my name? I'm Fearless Negro. The name of my business is EENY Eyewear, also known as Exclusive Eyes New York. And where I'm from, Brooklyn. So about my business, we make a bespoke collection. It's art, it's fashion, it's function. It's really matching your energy. So what I love is that we pair a lot of these pieces with our customers, and it's more of just eyewear. It's a connection. It's giving the people perception in seeing themselves as they truly are, because butterflies don't get to see their wings. So our eyewear is intentional, it's functional, and you can use your HSA, your FSA, Afterpay, and Klarna, and come get fly with us, support us. We are really changing the world one frame at a time.
Based on your research, can you provide an overview of the African American migration to Haiti that occurred from 1824 to 1825? I never heard about it.
Well, I never heard about it until I was taking a undergrad course preparing me for a Spanish immersion course in the Dominican Republic. And in that course, this book had maybe 1 or 2 paragraphs on that. And I was angry that I didn't know anything about this. And so I started studying it and reading more and more about it. And so by the time I finished undergrad, I had a grasp of it. And I knew when I went into grad school that was one of the main topics I would do my dissertation on. And so this is, again, that self-knowledge that we don't know, because we are talking to Haitians and Dominicans, and we don't even know that they were there for us. Some of us missing the boat on that we don't understand that these were the same people that harbored us. And even in Cuba, you find large Haitians and Jamaican communities, and so we need to understand that, and that we are all in the same circle. And this, though, was a case of Africans in this country, not just going to Haiti and Dominican Republic to escape the horrors of racism, because we in the depths of the enslavement here in the 1820s. Okay, we still in enslavement. And so black people had institutions already, like the AME Church and other African independent institutions. And they began to organize initially under some whites who had made contact with Haiti, but you had people like Prince Saunders and Paul Cuffey. And by the way, Paul Cuffey's family lived in Brooklyn, worked with Brother Sonny Carson, and had property on Gates Avenue, large property. It's been taken since. And so that extension is still with us. But these people had already gone to Haiti. Paul Cuffey was a shipbuilder out of Massachusetts, and he took trips to the Caribbean and Africa before this. In fact, his boat was seized, his goods were seized. He was starting a trade business with Africa, and his ships were seized during the War of 1812. And the whites began to pick his brain, and they came up with the American Colonization Society. So to give you a comparison, the blacks that went to Haiti from 1824 to 1825, in an 8-month period, there were anywhere between 13,000 of them that went. And it was abruptly cut off because people started coming in with scams, and the Haitian government cut it off. But blacks were running this with the Haitian government. Now, you take Liberia between 1820 and 1900, by comparison, a little over 15,000 black people went to Liberia. So you compare the 80 months of 8 months of 6 to 13,000 blacks going to Haiti and Dominican Republic to 80 years and 15,000 blacks going to Liberia. Okay? And so this was whites trying to expel blacks from this country because they didn't believe that if black people weren't enslaved, they didn't belong here. A sense of what you're getting right now in the climate of this country. It's always been here, like Malcolm said. They don't want us here. But we know we belong here. We have to act like this is ours. And if we don't belong here, nobody belongs here.
Tell us the mentorship Dr. Mawulenga Karenga provided before, during, and after your studies.
Well, I came to the East organization, which is the parent organization of Uhuru Sasa Shule, from which the festival emerged because it was a fundraiser, the festival for the school. We had daycare, we had a newspaper printing services, we had food co-op, one that you could purchase and one that we did cooperative buying. We had one of the major black experience in music, or what people call jazz music. We had concerts. It was a multifaceted institution. And the philosophy that guided that institution was the Nguzo Saba and Kawaida. We have revisionists now that act as if that wasn't how we move, or they don't mention it, but it was the hub and hinge around which the organization moved. Not just that organization, but Chris, if you look at the Black Power movement of the 60s and 70s, the institution builders, the things that we use today came from Kawaida philosophy and the Nguzo Saba that Dr. Karenga has given this movement. And one that everybody looks to is Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa is really a celebration of the Nguzo Saba in a way to share that with the larger community. And so the Kawaida philosophy and the 7 principles was the guiding principles and philosophy of the East organization, and it's still, as far as I'm chair, is the philosophy and guiding principles of the festival. And so these are very, very important historical knowledge and understanding that people should understand and be aware of. And of course, Dr. Karenga is still teaching and educating and serving our community. And the Black Freedom Movement, which we say is the Civil Rights Movement and the Black Power Movement. They try to collapse it as just the Civil Rights Movement, but okay, but there was something called Black Power. And there's still some of us that believe in the empowerment of Black people in the Black community. And that is one of the major forces coming out of that movement that's still pushing forward, is those principles and philosophy.
Can you explain to our audience the meaning of Nguzo Saba and the principles of Kwanzaa?
Well, the Nguzo Saba 7 principles, we say they're the hub and hinge upon which Black people can rescue and reconstruct their history and humanity. And if we could just practice some of these principles, some of the time, a whole new change can come in our lives. The beauty of these principles, think about it, is that they can unite, and they do unite. During Kwanzaa, millions of Black people all around the world, on every continent. Those principles are Umoja, unity; Kujichagulia, self-determination; Ujima, collective work and responsibility; Ujamaa, cooperative economics; Nia, purpose; Kumba, creativity; and Imani, faith. And we could just, again, look at these principles. And the beauty is that Our children can learn these principles at the earliest age, yet they're expansive enough to do a dissertation on. Okay, and so if we could implement these into our daily lives, and they're not religious, it's based on our culture as African people. And we need to teach them and internalize them as African people. And that is what's happening now. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. We in the early stages of people understanding this, but we have to spread these principles in our communities around the world, because I don't want to sound gloomy, but time is not necessarily on our side if you don't take advantage of it. And so we have to, especially in the climate we're in right now, we have to get organized. And these are principles we can organize our children and our people around.
Take us back to 1971. Describe the motivations and challenges the early executive team faced in organizing that inaugural International African Arts Festival in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay, I can only, of course, speak from my 20-year-old perspective, because I was just 20. I had been volunteering. At this point, I was still a volunteer at the organization. But I remember that festival pretty much, I'm pretty sure. And it was, we're pioneers. So you don't even know sometimes what you're doing, And I listened to students today. Some of the students that were just babies, some of them probably weren't even born yet. And they talking about, wow, this stuff had a profound effect on me. They're 40, 50 years old now, okay? And so they understand what that experience of being at the school, the early festivals they run around, and it's always been like that for the children. They could run free, and we haven't had much of any incidents. So these early teachers and students and parents, people like Brother MZ, Brother John Branch, Sister Koumba, Sister, so many of the people, Martha Bright, Tamanika, they pulled together an amazing event. And the children were very much involved. If you could see some pictures, you would say they are painting the street look like. There's paint all over the place. If you see some of those early photos. And so, they were cutting edge, And so that first event, and it was always Pan-African. There were always artists from the Caribbean, Africa, African-American, South American, always. And so the early pioneers, that vision was there from, it's not like we came into that later, no. We were Pan-Africanists from Jump Street, not just Nguzo Saba and Kawaida being Pan-African, with African-American base and understanding, but, the G2 and Amanisha, they were, Brother Herman Ferguson, Sister Ilawua. These people were really looking at what was happening to African people and students of Malcolm, okay? Not that we didn't understand King and the Civil Rights Movement, because we had holidays on their birthday. We celebrated, we took off on those, just right there, tell you something, the holidays we took. Those were the holidays we took. And so, but, it was the Marcus Garvey philosophy, Pan-Africanism of Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Nation of Islam, Malcolm X, So these were our influences. In the festival, the students learned all year round. And for us teachers, it was important because we didn't make a lot of money. And so money ran out in May and June. And so it was at the festival that we would get paid for the rest of what was due us and maybe have a summer job.
It is now 2025, the 54th consecutive year of the International African Arts Festival just concluded. What are the top 3 things that make you proud?
That people have come out, enjoyed themselves. We had a safe, healthy, great event that I think I saw in this festival a greater appreciation for the festival by the patrons that came out. Also, we were able to touch base with a lot of new people to come out and celebrate with us that we hadn't touched base because we went into and utilized new avenues, new media outlets, and that while we are struggling financially, we didn't do too bad, in that, you know, we could see the light at the end of the tunnel. A lot of people don't understand this, but festival is a multi-million-dollar operation functioning on a few $100,000. Why? Because the people that produce it make great sacrifices. We got people that volunteer that make 6 figures. I'm a volunteer. People don't understand, you know, and it's something that, you know, we need to challenge more people to do. I don't need festivals money because I have a pension and I have Social Security. So I can volunteer my time. Too many of our people, we retire and then we just think, oh no, we've been working on these modern day plantations for centuries. And now we should give time to our community. And so I've decided to do that. And so a festival has enormous potential and it should be duplicated around the world because it brings us together as a people. And that's one of the beauties, is that it brings so many of our communities together. Normally we would look, some people would be looking down on, but everybody's out there peaceful, celebrating, and yet there's not one major police incident in 54 years.
Hello guys, how you doing today? My name is Akassa. I was born in Senegal, but I'm African. And I'm doing this show for many, many years now. And I welcome my friend to come see me, and she's gonna say something about her. Introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Dara, friend and fan of Akassa, the artist.
Yes. The name of my business is Akassa Productions. And I've been doing art almost all my life. And most of my inspiration come from the hieroglyphs, like the Egyptian art, like the shapes they put on the walls and the trees. And I mixed it with my West African culture to get the colors. And I try to be between abstraction and expressionism together, just to get my own style. What do you think?
I think it's working.
Good. Okay, I'm gonna talk about this piece. This particular piece is saxophonist, and I call it natural music because of this kind of instrument. You do it with your energy, with your soul. It's something coming from your inside, and you get the sound off, and people can feel something on that. And yeah, that's what it is, you know.
What I would like to say about Akassa's art is that I think it's very distinctive. The visual language is you know, it's like you know that it's you when you're looking at it, which I feel like is like a signature. It's a signature style, you know. It's like you look at it and you're like, that's Akassa. Because like I said, I was walking by and I saw your pieces before I saw you, the person, and that's how I knew that this was where you were. And I have several of his pieces. My dad actually is a saxophone player, and so I've purchased some of the saxophone art. I saw some of it over there as well, in addition to this piece. So yes, I'm hoping to, you know, see what I can walk away with today, but also what he makes in the future.
People can find me on my social media pages, on Instagram, like Akassa9906. And they can email me to akassaproduction1@gmail.com.
If an audience member has never attended the festival, explain how they are depriving themselves.
Again, they're missing a celebration of African people in all genres of art, entertainment, and it's the oldest festival in the country, arguably the world, that's Pan-African, multi-day Pan-African festival. So you need to see this. You might be needing to do this where you are, you know? So it's a great experience. And I'm a person, as a business person running the travel business, I'm at festivals all over the world, you know? And so I'm traveling 3-4 times a year to different places. And a lot of times I'm going for the festival. I'm taking people to see the place as well as to enjoy the arts and entertainment. And so I know we have one of the best festivals in the world, and it's catering to our community. These festivals I go to, they cater to tourists. We don't cater to tourists.
Where can tax-deductible charitable contributions be sent to ensure the 75th festival actually happens?
Appreciate that question, Brother Chris. Thank you. If I understand correctly, we are a 501c3 organization. In fact, I just signed some documents to complete our current fiscal year. So you can go to our website at www.IAAFestival.org, and you can find multiple means, whether it's Cash App, Zelle, or you can send checks to 1360 Fulton Street, Suite 401, Brooklyn, New York, 11216. Again, you can go to our website, www.IAAFestival.org, or you can mail checks to 1360 Fulton Street, Brooklyn, New York, 11216, and that's Suite 401. That's our office.
Are there any upcoming activities and resources you want to share with the audience?
Yes, we are working on a few projects. One that we're going to do this fall is we're going to bring back our Brothers Who Burn, Brothers Who Cook fundraiser. So you should look for that on our website. We're looking at maybe November 16th for that event. It's a very nice event. Some of us brothers can burn, and we come out and produce some great food, and we also have great entertainment at that event. So we're working on that event. We're also looking in 2026 to do, in conjunction with my travel business, a trip to Africa, and we're going to start embarking hopefully on those trips soon, but we hope to have one together in 2026. And so those are some of the things. And also we want people to be on the lookout for any support we might need from them to pressure the powers that be to ensure that we have a festival in the next few months, a site for our festival, because, you know, we're struggling with the city and the borough to find a site for our event. And we shouldn't have that problem as the oldest festival probably in this city. And you know, they telling us there's no park for us in Brooklyn. That sounds criminal to me, to say something like that with all of these parks. They should be saying, well, where do you want to have your event at, and how can we work with you? Not just, oh, find somewhere. Dismissive. So we want people to watch our website and get on our social media lists and email lists. And you can do that by, again, going to our website at www.IAAFestival and see how you're going to be in contact with us all year round, because we do community educational events all year round. We do forums sometimes once a month or more, you know, around different issues affecting our community, from immigration to health to women's health, birthing, youth. We did a forum a month or so ago on skills and employment opportunities in civil service and skills areas. And we had some former Uhuru Sasa students participating in that. So we do a lot of educational events throughout the year at our office and in the Restoration Complex. And you can find that on our website.
Dr. Segun Shabaka, thank you for taking the time to join us at the Black Art Network. We look forward to seeing you at next year's International African Arts Festival.
Thank you. I really appreciate this. I like how you really were very professional with this, and it's much appreciated by myself, not just myself, but the festival family.
The Black Art Network is excited to welcome Brenda Brunson Bay, fashion design artist extraordinaire. Before we wow the audience with your designs, let us get to know you first. While growing up, who and what were your early influences?
Well, I grew up in Augusta, Georgia, where I was born. I lived in New York for a minute in Bayside, Long Island. My mother and father divorced, and then I moved back south. And I guess influences were all around me, because at that time, as children, I'm of an age where you learn to sew. Every girl had to learn to sew. And this was before you even started in high school and took like home economics. As a kid, you had to learn, at 9, you learned to crochet. And each of us would be trying to see who could crochet the best. So if your grandmother picked your crochet design to put on her coffee table, you were the best. And I did that. And then the next movement was learning to sew. I mean, that was something that every girl, by the time they're 12. When we get to high school, I don't know if they still have it here or not, I doubt it. We had a course called Home Economics. Boys and girls both took it. Boys had to learn how to cook, girls had to learn how to sew. And so I started sewing on the machine early. I also found out later in life that I came from, on my father's side, people from South Carolina. Our great-great-grandmother taught all her children to sew, men and women. My father came to New York in 1933 as a tailor. But back then, he couldn't do his own tailoring. He worked as he did repairs and stuff in the cleaners. But I found out that my grandmother had done all of this, so I saw it was coming down through my bloodline too. But that's not what I started out to do. I could do it because I was making my own clothes by the time I was 15 and stuff. That was normal for all of us.
Did I correctly read that you applied dual degrees in biology and chemistry to laboratory work and teaching early in your career?
Yeah, I did. I finished at Morris Brown College in Atlanta with 2 degrees, biology and chemistry. I had plans on being a scientist, and I still think I'm a scientist because I'm dealing with fabrics and all kinds of stuff. So science and art are really the same. Art is just a visual way of doing science. Yes. And I taught for 2 years when I moved back home. Yeah.
What made you switch careers and pursue study at the Fashion Institute of Technology?
Well, I had been working, when I first came out of college, I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and I worked for a credit company there. I couldn't get any science stuff there. Nothing was happening. It was a big business place there. And then I said, no, I think I want to try to do something a little bit more creative. So I had heard about Fashion Institute of Technology, and because I had a degree, I could go there for 2 years and get my degree. I didn't have to do all of the other courses. I decided to go for fashion buying and merchandising. In Augusta, before I came here, I had a little small store because I was always creating. At that time, back in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s, we were painting on clothes, you know, the jeans fad that they have out now. That fad came from there. I had a little store that was like a little closet in the shopping center, shopping mall area. Not a mall, but it was like a little small center. And I was just having fun, you know, making things and selling them. I was working on a job and stuff too, because I was teaching and stuff. And at that time, I had a boyfriend, and he says, Brenda, why don't you open up a real nice store, you know, blah, blah, blue, blue, blue. I said, well, I don't know enough about, you know, that kind of stuff. I'm just having fun. He says, well, why don't you go take a course, you know? So I don't know how, I can't remember how I found out about FIT, but I did. And I found out that I could come for a couple of years. Plus, I had relatives here. My aunt and stuff were here. So I decided to come up, and I took the course in fashion buying and merchandising. And because I had a degree already, I could get also degree in advertising too. So I have both of those too, but you know, I didn't go for fashion design. It's so interesting. I did take a few courses, but I didn't actually go there for that.
When did you make the decision to become an entrepreneur and pursue your fashion design passion?
Well, when I came out of FIT, I had to work. I needed a job. It wasn't fun, you know. I couldn't go around just having because when I left Georgia and I came to school, I lost a boyfriend too. So now I had to be serious about things. So I took a job at the old Abraham and Strauss stores as a buyer. I worked with them for about 6 years, almost 6 years. I thought it was going to be exciting and into fashion, and it was in a sense, but it was all business. And I got kind of bored about it. And I was also creating then, and I was going to festivals and things like that and selling my clothes. There's a festival outside the building here now, and those were the kind of festivals that were going on in the 70s in that time. So I remember going into this store in Brooklyn that this man had, and I love kind of drama clothes. I like bigger clothes too. I like silhouettes. And I had on this cape that I had made, and I used to shop with him because he always bought kind of different things. He says, Brenda, where did you get that cape from? And I said, oh, I made it. He said, you made that? You know? And I never thought about like stopping what I was doing until he says, would you make me a dozen? I thought about it. God said, it's time for you to stop. I gave them a 3 months notice. I started my own line and I started selling to, at that time there were a lot of small boutiques. That's when the boutique lines were coming out in the 70s and stuff. And so I made my living doing that for a while, for most of that time. Mm-hmm.
Tell us about your Tribal Truths collection boutique and showroom.
Well, it's not it's not in operation now. I do have it within my home. I have a showroom at home, but I did have a store. Tribal Truths Collection is the name of a line. When I first started my line, the name of it was Design Studio. So boring, but that's the name I came up with. And I remember asking Spirit, I said, I need a name that reflects what I do. You know, I had started into using a lot of African fabrics when I first saw them. I went to Tanzania in the early 80s and I started to collect things then and fabrics and stuff, and I knew this is the way that I wanted to go, showing my culture. And so I did prayers to my ancestors and to Spirit to give me a name. And I remember waking up from a dream and I heard this voice say, "Old voice, if the truth be told, we'd be from many tribes." I was married at the time and I remember waking up and waking my husband up. Hey, I got it. Truth, tribes. He says, what's the matter with you? What are you talking about? And that's how Tribal Truths came about. And that's what I ended up calling the line, because if the truth be told, we be from many tribes.
So, how long have you been involved with the International African Arts Festival?
I started when I moved to a certain part of Brooklyn. I was in Fort Greene, Brooklyn. I had been living in Flatbush at that time, and I didn't know that much about International Arts Festival at the time. And once I moved over into Fort Greene, I began to get involved in the stuff that was happening there. And that was like in the 80s. They were at Boys and Girls High on Fulton Street. And I remember the first time I went there, I was so excited. It was the biggest festival I think I had ever gone to in one space. And it excited me. I think that was the year that, I'm trying to think, Sun Ra came. You remember that? Sun Ra had come. And I was just a believer in his music. It was just so fascinating because it had everything. It had people from the continent. It had just so much energy, and it just excited me. And from then on, I started doing it. Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate on the civic and economic contributions you made in Brooklyn for citizens and other artists?
Yes, I always call myself a team person. I grew up the same height I am now. I'm not that tall now, but at 10, I was tall. They called me Long Tall Sally. And I used to play, I love sports. I used to play football, basketball, baseball, all of it. I was sort of like a tomboy. So I grew up believing in the team. I don't think anybody can do anything alone. Even if that one person gets to be known in that, they had to start off with something else, with other people that helped them. And I think to stay where you are, you need a team. So my movement in fashion and in life has always been connecting with people who think the way I think, who want the same things that I want, and it's easier for us to get them together as a group than it is for us to be by ourselves. So in my life, I've dedicated my time in life to that. You know, I want for others what I want for myself. So I went in the first store called 4W Circle back in 1991. It was a store that was run by 4 sisters who came together with an idea of having a collective store where we wanted to go beyond flea market. That's what it seemed like it was, but we turned it into a mini department store. And with my experience in merchandising and buying, we changed that from flea market till we just opened the store up where it flowed from one place to the other. No spaces, no division, just one space, because that's the way merchandising should be done. And I stayed there until for 12 years, and then I moved not too far, saw the diagonal across the street into my own store. And I had never intended to have my own store. I liked that whole team stuff. But even in my tiny store, I did have 4 or 5 artists in there.
Where can the audience find more information about Tribal Truth collections, as well as other ventures you may be working on?
Well, right now I don't have a working website, but I can be reached. You can email me at tribaltruthsfashions@yahoo.com, and I can also be reached on my home number, home business, which is 718-638-7624. Right now, after COVID, we closed. When COVID started, we really closed the store. But the real reason that I left that area was for gentrification. I stopped having a customer there. This was in the Fort Greene area. And this is something I want to talk about that I'm working on now. When I moved into Fort Greene and 4W Circle, we started a movement called Bogolan. I'm writing on it now and trying to do a pictorial book on it. At one time, there were more Black-owned businesses within the corridor of Lafayette Avenue on Fulton Street going up to the park than anywhere else in the country. Black businesses started moving in. 4W was one of them. Mushood, who's now over at Restoration, was one of it. And we had named that area Bogolan, which means mudcloth in the Bogolofini language. The powers that be looked up and saw that we had created that there. It was a destination point. It was very, very powerful. All Black-owned businesses, restaurants, stores, galleries. We just had, we had a furniture store there. All kinds of stuff. People were coming right and left. We had our own newspaper with Eric Blackwell. We had a festival every year. We closed off the street and had a festival. So I really want to document that and make that a piece of our history and make it be a way that we can start to do this again. There are areas in Brooklyn where they are doing that, down on Tompkins Avenue, where we are gathering together as not just 1 or 2 businesses, but multi-businesses and creating something that is Black-owned for us. Others can shop, but it's for us, by us. So that's what's happening.
Brenda Brunson Bay, thank you for taking the time to join us at the Black Art Network.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Honored. Thank you.
My name is Adama, and where I'm from Senegal, and I live in New York here. My bags, everything is handmade here, and everything is my own design, and I've been doing those bags for the last 8 years, and I'm originally from Senegal, and all the works are done in Senegal, me and my friends. How are my bags received by my customers? They've been well received. They love my design, and I'm getting a lot of support out of here. And I have a special relationship with my customers about the designing and about my works. Where do people can find me? They can find me on my Instagram, which is Soma, which I named after my grandfather, S-O-M-A, Fashion Africa, which is my Instagram. And where do they can find me also? They can find me on festivals. I always post my festival where I'm going to be at on my Instagrams.